Divine Kingdom presents interview with Josh Hong, competitive CrossFit athlete. He ranks 61st worldwide. He is considered being Asia's fittest after being the winner of the 2024 Fitness Championship. The R in R.A.D life of Jesus Christ is relationship priorities. Let's start with the relationship with God. How did you get saved?
Okay, so my parents were both born Christian, and so my grandparents are both very devout Christian in Korea. And so I think from a very young age, I was familiarized with just going to church, and I had kids Christian Bible and all that. And so growing up, I kind of knew that this is something really important to me, but I don't think until I turned 15 I really understood what it means to be a follower of Christ. And so then I was in Arkansas. My parents were both still in Korea, and it was just me and my brother in Arkansas with a host parent. And I got introduced to a friend from the counseling office at my school, and she is a believer as well. And so she wanted me to kind of find my community in the church. And so yeah, that's just kind of how it started. So he invited me to his cell group, and then I started going to his church. And then that's kind of when it really deepened my faith, because I was away from my parents, and I kind of needed like that guiding light, and I kind of found shelter at church. And so 15 is when I decided to get baptized, and that's when I would officially say I was saved.
How do you prioritize God?
So that's a really tough question, especially as an athlete, because I think with any sports, but you really have to prioritize yourself a lot of times. And when you win events or you do really well, you want to tell the audience, tell everyone that it was your hard work that got you that result. But as Christians, we're told to glorify God before yourself. And so I think it is challenging sometimes, especially not in bigger moments. I think it's actually easier to glorify God, but it's the smaller moments that is sometimes harder. So in the gym with all your gym bros just working out, you kind of want to one-up each other. And in that culture, you still want to show love, and you want to show that God is still my Lord. And so I think those are the moments that when it gets hard, you really need to show it through. But I think through athletics, through CrossFit, I've really been able to showcase my faith. And so it's been a really good outlet for me. My Instagram and everything else, I try to show that every post, every caption, I try to include God in it, because that is the most important thing, and that is one of the reasons why I started CrossFit.
What is your favorite Bible verse and why?
My favorite Bible verse would probably be Joshua 1:9. Reason why is, I guess, because my name is Josh. So the first thing I was like, I'm gonna read the Bible through and through. And so the first chapter I read was, I guess I need to know who I am in the Bible. So I went to Joshua and the book of Joshua, and it was very interesting. It obviously isn't even similar to my life. The original Joshua lived a very militant and violent life. But even through that, it showcases his faith, and it also shows that he had doubts, and his followers had doubts. But even then, God was there to tell him that, don't be afraid, I am here for you, and through me you can achieve everything. And that really struck hard. So that's my go-to Bible verse.
Any books or YouTube that you read or watched that you would recommend helped you grow in your faith that might help others?
Yeah, there are a few books that come into mind. There's one book called Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron, and he doesn't publicly profess his faith, but he is one of the leading coaches in CrossFit, and he shows how relationships and selflessness is how you actually become a better athlete, and how your character is what everyone remembers, apart from just the results, just from, winning the CrossFit Games and everything. And so at the CrossFit Games, there is also an award called Spirit of the Games. And it's about someone who embodied the spirit of a competitor in various ways. And he actually said that one of his athletes, Cole Sager, got the Spirit of the Games award, and he was more proud of that award than Katrin Davidsdottir, she was the champion of the CrossFit Games. And he said that he was prouder for Cole Sager to get that Spirit of the award. And that really changed my perspective, because in CrossFit we're always like, oh, you gotta win, but there are other ways to win, right? And oftentimes it's not on the leaderboard. It's through personal interactions and how you show love to your competitors and your teammates. So Chasing Excellence would be one of the books that really helps me.
Any pastors or people that helped you?
I can think of two. One is a church that I used to go to in Boston called Alethea Church. Pastor Adam Mabry, he's phenomenal in pretty much, he has a really good call to action by the end of the service. And I think that's really important because he preaches in Cambridge, which is one of the most changing, progressive, diverse group of students from MIT, Harvard, but also just residents. And it's just like a mix. If you just go to church, you would instantly recognize that it is one of the most diverse group of people that are there for one purpose, which is also beautiful. But I always try to listen to his online sermons because I live in New York now. I can't go in person, but yeah, he is really good at making us be compelled to do something, not just feel good on Sunday, but use that message to actually live out the next week and then progress that way. So yeah, Alethea Church is one of the, it's not a YouTube page, but they do have online sermons, and I always look for that. Oh, Jordan Peterson, oh. He's I think he has really good messages, especially for young men. And after college, I think I had a bit of a conflict about my own identity as an athlete, as someone who needs to make money and put food on the table and all that. And I was just like, man, who am I as a person? And I think the one figure that really helped me kind of figure out who I am and my identity was Jordan Peterson. So
what was the worst thing you went through, and how did you overcome it?
I would say CrossFit is a very violent sport. Not violent, aggressive sport. It's very intense, and especially at the highest level. It diverges away from health and wellness, and it becomes more just about performance. And through that, there are obviously higher risks of injury. And so about 3 years ago, I had a pretty bad back injury. And I think it happened because I was prioritizing other things than recovery. And as an athlete, we need to recover. And I think when you're young, you don't really care about that. You just care about putting hours in the gym. And I think that finally kind of broke. And so I think that was when I realized that I can't just rely on CrossFit as an identity, because that's when when you're young, you're always going up, and then an injury happens, and then you for the first time feel that dip of oh, I can't do this anymore. I need to just take a step back and just let my body rest. And that was really hard for me, because I think at that time my identity was so into CrossFit that once I couldn't compete and I couldn't train, I was kind of lost in trying to find other ways to figure out who I was. But I think there were so many good lessons, because now I understand that CrossFit is a part of me, but a bigger part of me is, beyond CrossFit. And so that injury happened, and then I slowly recovered, and then it happened again, and then I slowly recovered, and it happened again, and I slowly recovered. And then on the third time, I knew something was really wrong, because I couldn't feel the left side of my leg. When I woke up, I basically could not stand up for about an hour because your discs get rehydrated during the night, and it basically presses on the nerve even harder. And so I just kind of had to like lay down with my feet up for at least just an hour, just waiting until it dehydrates again so I can actually walk. And I lost bladder control, so I would just pee myself because the nerve was just pressing on it. And even then I was like, I could probably get through this. And then after a while, it dawned on me that, oh my goodness, if this is the rest of my life, like, would I be okay with it? And I realized that it would be really, really hard to live like that for the rest of my life. And so that really made me realize, like, okay, I can't be a competitor right now. I just need to heal. And so I pretty much just dropped any aspirations I had as an athlete and just kind of focused on healing, and went back to the Bible and tried to find answers. And I think that obviously physical healing, but also spiritual healing as well.
And how do you prioritize your beautiful girlfriend?
And Bergeron says this perfectly. He says that if you want to be the best athlete in the world, you have to sacrifice a lot of things. And he describes it as kind of like you're juggling balls, and all of the balls you can kind of be okay. They're not made out of glass, but there's one ball that's made out of glass, and it's relationships. And so he said that as an athlete, even if you sacrifice a little bit and it drops, it won't crack, and you can kind of pick it back up. But the one thing, once it cracks, it's really hard to bring back our relationships. And I think I realized that that is more important to me by the end of the day. Like, when I think about my life, relationships are more important than CrossFit. And so obviously there will be compromises because I will be away in Asia or in Europe, and sometimes it's sad when I have to leave Amy for a bit. But yeah, I think end of the day, my identity is not in CrossFit. And so I think that really helps me realize what's important in my life.
Let's move to the A in the rad life of Jesus Christ, which is athletic mastery. What inspired you to become a competitive CrossFit athlete?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty funny story. I used to bodybuild. I wouldn't say bodybuild because I was so young. But basically my mom got into just bodybuilding / weightlifting, and she wanted me and my brother to kind of pick that up too. And I was 13, my brother was 15 then. And so we were still in Korea. That was right before we moved to Arkansas. And it was really fun for me. So I just started doing weightlifting, and then just kind of done that for 4 years. And then I kind of burnt out because I was doing the same thing over and over again, and I was still so young, so I didn't know what I was doing. And then one day me and my brother, we were just skating around an industrial park, kind of just like where there are gyms, but there are also like detailing, like car detail centers and like just different commercial buildings there. But just because there are less cars and it's less busy, so we usually skate there. We heard a lot of like meowing, and then we realized there was like a litter of kittens underneath the sewer, but the mom was gone, so they were just kind of stranded there. So me and my brother, we were just like throwing down tuna cans and stuff to make sure that the kitties were alive. And then on one of the trips there, I just heard loud music, and then I just decided to go in. I had no idea what CrossFit was or anything like that, so I just walked in, and Lisa, who was coaching at that time, was like, yeah, our 4:30 class is about to start. If you want to join us, you can. And then that's just kind of how the journey started. So I was trying to rescue kittens, and then I ended up doing CrossFit.
What is your greatest accomplishment so far?
As an athlete?
Yeah.
Okay, as an athlete. Okay. I would say I always had a goal of going to the CrossFit Games, and this year I get to go to the CrossFit Games, but I haven't gone there yet because it's in August. But I also had it on my bio to be the fittest in Asia. That was my goal for a very long time. And so Last year, I was in China, Shanghai, for the Asia Championships. It doesn't necessarily give you the title of you're the fittest in Asia, but it is the biggest competition in Asia. So I got to participate in that for the first time, and I won that. So that was a really cool experience, and I still can't really believe that I won that competition, but I would say that was my proudest moments of my career.
Are you training for any competitions now then? Sounds like it.
Yeah, so the CrossFit Games is coming up, so we will be training for that. I just finished a pretty big competition called the Syndicate Crown, so I'm just resting for a week, but starting next week I'll ramp that up, and yeah.
Okay, how many hours a day, how many years did you have to train to get this far?
It's been about 4 years since I've done competitive CrossFit, I would say. I always wanted to go to the CrossFit Games, but I haven't really said, okay, I'm going to change the way I live to achieve this goal until probably around like 2021, 2020-ish. But now, I train usually in the morning and then in the evening twice. It probably takes me around 5 to 6 hours, including warm-up, cool-down, all that per day. And I've been doing it for 9 years now.
What is your favorite exercise and one that you hate?
Oh, that's a good question. My favorite exercise, I think, would be ring muscle-ups because they look really cool, and I just happen to have really short arms, so I'm good at them. And so in competitions, usually if there are ring muscle-ups, I'm thrilled. One movement that I absolutely hate was actually deadlifts, because that's one of the movements that I injured my back on. So I think psychologically I'm trying to get back onto doing them again. It's not that it's a bad movement for me, but it's just painful memories attached with it. So
do you have a tip on getting one pull-up?
Yeah, no, I mean, so I would say progressive overload works for everyone and anyone. And what progressive overload basically means is you start with wherever your ability is, and then you slowly increase that tolerance. So there's a story about a boy named Milo. He was a wrestler back in ancient Greece times, and he had a calf that he would lift up onto his shoulder every single day until the calf grew into an actual cow. But because he's been able to do it every single day, he was able to lift up the calf, or the cow now. And so that is kind of the story of progressive overload. So what I would say is, start with banded strict pull-ups, right? So have a band underneath you that is thick enough that you can get a chin up, and then you slowly make the band thinner and thinner and thinner until you can do it without a band. And then now you progressively overloaded into doing one strict pull-up.
Advice on how to increase for max pull-ups?
You need to figure out what your limiting factor is. It might be muscular, it might be your grip fatigue, it might be mental, right? So there are different ways or different reasons why you might be limited. So first of all, figuring out why the limitation happens. At the 20 to 30 range, it might actually be grip strength. And so I'm figuring out, once you fail a rep, it's like, okay, why did I fail that? Was that my muscles giving out? Was that mentally I was tapped? So to figure out mentally, it's like you try to do a max pull-up every single day and see if that ceiling is the same. If it is the same, then that means it's not mentally tapped. But if it's different, then that means mentally you're tapped. So you got to work on your mental skills.
We might have to move.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Pause. Any advice on how to max push-ups? 2
different movements, right? So pull-ups is pulling, obviously. Push-ups is pressing. And so one thing I would say is push-up is a little bit easier to increase your capacity, but what's important about push-up is a pull-up, it's harder to do a bad rep because you're suspended, whereas a push-up, there are a lot of ways to kind of do it in a poor form. And so what's really important is trying to make sure you have proper form first and foremost, and also understanding that, you know, your hand positions and your shoulder width all matters, right? And so figuring out what the optimal shoulder width and hand position is per athlete, because everyone's different, and working through that advantageous position over time would be what I would do. And also, you know, what's great about push-up is, you know, if you do similar movements, so dumbbell bench press or barbell bench press, then those kind of strength pieces will translate over to, you know, max set of push-ups. So you can do it in different ways, which variation will help with the overall number.
For women, how do you get toned arms, get rid of the under flap, but not get buff?
You know, elite level CrossFit athletes, you know, even at the female side, they will have really big shoulders and big arms. And I think a lot of female CrossFit athletes actually struggle with that body image because, you know, in the world of CrossFit, that's praised, and it's like, oh wow, you look so good, you look so fit. But outside of the gym, it's like everyone's kind of staring at you and saying like, oh, that person looks too big, they're a girl. And it's like, it's really frustrating for me to see that, because obviously someone with muscle is probably healthier than someone who's not. But I do understand that, you know, body image is really important, and people want to do fitness because they want to look better, right? And so if it gives you an outcome that you don't want, then you haven't really achieved what you want through fitness. So what I would say is if you want to be toned, you want to focus more on body weight movements. So strength training, you know, lifting super heavy weight is what increases your muscular volume in your body. And so doing more high repetition body weight movements will help you burn fat faster, but allow the muscles to be denser instead of being bigger, if that makes sense. So that helps. And I think running is a really good exercise for that, because running obviously burns a lot of fat, but it doesn't require you to use your arms that much. So that's why it's really hard to see runners with really big arms, because you don't use your arms. So
Like I have just 5 pound weights. So would I need to increase that to like 10 or 15 pound each?
No, I would say 5
start
pounds
with
are
5.
5 pounds are completely fine. You just do more reps of it.
More reps. Okay.
More reps, more sets. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I think then the challenge just becomes, how do you do it in a way that's fun and not boring, right? Because you have to do a lot, which means it's going to take you longer.
How do you approach recovery?
Yeah, so recovery is sometimes really hard to quantify, right? Because there isn't like you can have a personal record on recovery. And so one thing I would do is, you know, do your research and make sure, you know what type of recovery methods actually work and what doesn't. For example, a lot of people use the hyperized boots, like the compression boots, to recover. But if you look at the science, there really isn't a lot of evidence that show, you actually recover faster using those boots. So it might just be mental at that point to, it feels good and it might help, but, trying to figure out what is actually science-backed and those things, if it will help. But also, I think a big part of recovery that a lot of athletes miss out on is meditation. And it's because, mental strain is really hard to quantify. It's one of the hardest things to quantify, but more athletes in CrossFit pull out of competitions because of mental fatigue rather than physical fatigue. And so making sure that you're mentally strong, and that might mean, actually doing what you love when your rest day, right? If you're just home on your phone scrolling all the time, or you're doing things, you're doing chores and you're not actually having fun, then I think your mental fatigue is going to get worse over time, and that recovery is going to be overdue. So I think, one of the biggest methods for mental recovery, for me at least, is to lean into God and read the scripture, pray every night. And in terms of physical recovery, I wake up, I usually turn on the shower, a cold shower, and that usually starts my day. And using heat and ice, I think, always helps. So going into the sauna for 20 minutes after training, and then using the ice bath before training to, help your body understand what it means to warm your body up.
What are the best stretches for mobility?
I think mobility is still debated on, how do you actually get loose? And so if you look at yogis, people who do yoga, they are really, really flexible. And we might think, oh, yogis probably never get hurt, but yogis actually do get hurt quite often. And it's because they're hypermobile, right? They're very, very mobile to a point where, their joints are moving at a range where they're not supposed to, but your body's able to because you're just so loose. And so, and if you look at powerlifters, they're super, super tight because that's what is required to lift tremendous weight, is your body needs to be tight. And so instead of trying to do static stretching, which, might help with the temporary range of motion, but overall, I think it's important to rather do myofascial release, which has more science-backed evidence. So myofascial release would be like foam rolling, lacrosse balling, or going to a masseuse and getting body work done. And those things, I think, are overlooked because, one, they're painful, and two, it's a little bit boring, a little bit less boring if you're watching YouTube or a TV show while you're rolling out, and three, you need to know why or where you need to do the release on. So a lot of people are not educated on, like, which muscles are tight and why is this causing me to be tight on my hamstrings. So just because your hamstrings tight doesn't mean you need to roll out your hamstrings. It might actually be your glutes, it might actually be your psoas. So trying to figure out why that tightness happens, and then working from there back is a suggestion.
What is the best way to cut fat and gain muscle at the same time?
The age-old, million-dollar question that everybody wants, right? And if there was a pill that instantly gets you muscular and lose fat, everyone would take it. And I think the quick answer to that is nutrition, right? And so, I think we associate physical activity, physical exercise with transformation in our bodies, but nutrition is always going to be more important than the physical exercise. And so, if you're not giving yourself enough protein, if you're not eating enough protein, then no matter how hard you train, your body's going to work really, really hard to try to make muscle, which, protein is the building blocks for that. And in terms of losing fat, if you are eating a lot of, fatty things, then it will be harder for you to lose fat, right? And so if you want to gain muscle and lose fat, what I would recommend is doing lower intensity workouts that allows your heart rate to be in zone 2, zone 3. Mix that with resistance training, so weightlifting and calisthenics, things that you're doing right now to kind of like put a little bit of strain in the muscle so it actually has the opportunity to grow. But nutritionally, I think getting enough protein is always the hardest part. I always recommend, if you're 180 pounds, convert that into grams and try to get that amount. So 180 grams of protein per day would be the recommendation for a 180 pound athlete in order to optimize.
Okay, on that note then, what does your daily diet look like?
So as a CrossFitter, I think more than, quality obviously matters, but quantity really, really matters to us too, because if you don't get enough calories in, you will get hurt because you're just always in a deficit and your body just cannot recover. And so making sure you get enough calories is the most important priority for us. So for me, I drink 2 smoothies generally when I'm not traveling and I'm home, and that smoothie generally consists of 1,000 calories per smoothie. And so it's super dense, but they're made with pretty clean ingredients. It has like almond butter, whole milk, bananas, frozen berries, a little bit of honey, and whey protein. So it's just that jam-packed into a smoothie. And so I'll drink that in the morning, one at night, and then I'll have usually breakfast. I'll just do usually carb dense things like a bagel or oatmeal, just because I go train right after. And then for lunch and dinner, I would do pasta with some sort of meat, because pasta has a lot of dense carbs that helps for CrossFit athletes.
Okay. And what is your cheat meal? Like naughty food?
My cheat meal is a little bit different. I actually don't like sweets that much because we drink a lot of powdered drinks while we train to so like Gatorade or things like that, in order to replenish our carb source during our training. So for me, a lot of things I eat and drink are sweet, unfortunately, because of that nature. So I just kind of don't want to eat sweets. So for me, it's actually eating spicy food. So me and Amy, we both love hot pot and Asian cuisine, which usually has spicy food in it. And so that would be my cheat meal, but it's just hard to pair that with training, because you know, obviously when you eat a lot of spicy food, it's just like it's just, you feel the fire inside your stomach. So
Yeah, you mentioned smoothies.
Yeah.
So, but like, do you take any pre-workout supplements? Like protein shakes or is it creatine?
Yeah. So I take 10 grams of creatine, because 5 gram is more optimized for non-athletes, or just an average person. Whereas you know, because I want more muscles and I am a little bit bigger than the average person, I try to take a little bit more. So I take 10 grams of creatine. I think creatine is great for athletes and non-athletes. There are a lot of good studies about, you know, increasing longevity through the use of creatine, and how it helps power the mitochondria and helps with sleep deprivation and all that good stuff. So I always recommend creatine for everyone. And I do take whey protein for the smoothies, 3 scoops, so 1.5 scoops per serving. And I take fish oil. You need to make sure that you're getting the good quality, right quality fish oil. So like krill oil, for example, is not considered great in terms of quality. Good quality oil comes from cod or some type of fish, rather than shrimp and things like that. And I do magnesium glycinate. It relieves your muscle before you go to sleep, so that's good as well. CBD now and then, that also helps with inflammation and things like that, recovery, and allows you to sleep better. And then vitamin D. I think in Hawaii you guys are fine, but if you live in New York, when it's you know, cold in the winter especially, vitamin D gets really important. So
What resources might help others with CrossFit or fitness in general?
I compete in the sport of CrossFit, but the methodology oftentimes is very, very different than what we do. So if you're trying to strive for health and wellness and not, you know, competitive performance, then you really shouldn't be doing ring muscle ups. I don't think you should be doing, you know, heavy snatches and things of that nature. So what I would recommend is F45 is a really good company, a good franchise that kind of embodies that health and wellness aspect of CrossFit. They're just not considered CrossFit because CrossFit's a brand and they just branched off. But F45 will keep you relatively healthy and lower the risk of injury. So that's probably where I would send to, or go to a CrossFit gym, but you want to go to a CrossFit gym that's been open for a very long time, because they probably know what they're doing and they have phenomenal coaching staff. And so that would be my recommendation. If you don't have a CrossFit gym nearby and you want to work out at home, there's a program called Street Parking, and it's started by, you know, CrossFit affiliate owners, and they do a really good job with like equipment limitations and, you know, harnessing the community together. So I think that's a phenomenal resource as well.
What are your favorite channels for fitness or CrossFit?
I would say in the world of CrossFit, you know, CrossFit as a company also has a YouTube channel, and they are really good at educating you know, health and wellness in general, and they do a good job kind of like separating the elites and the, you know, health and wellness track of things. And so their media team has been up and down. They've been really good before, and they just kind of had like a massive layoff, and now they're just kind of recovering back. And so CrossFit.com is a really good place to go to for evidence-based, stories and published articles and things like that. Another good CrossFit channel I would say would be, I want to say CompTrain, but they have been moving away from competitive CrossFit, and they actually de-affiliated, so they don't actually consider themselves as CrossFit anymore. But CompTrain used to be a really good resource for anyone who wants to learn new movements or wants to understand what it means to be a CrossFit athlete, or what it means to strive for health and wellness.
For years, you have come out to vertical sports. What does that look like?
Basically, I've been doing it for 3 years, and I was connected with a really awesome guy named R.A.D, and he just kind of came up to me while I was warming up for an event 3 years ago at Granite Games, and he said, hey, there's a really cool opportunity in Maui. I have a really cool friend named Josh. I can connect you with him. And so he did, and he said, hey, we're doing a new CrossFit program for the kids at Hope Chapel every year, and so we would love to be for you to be a part of that. So I flew out, and it was my first time. I was super nervous because I don't really get to hang out with kids. And so the AM is, I think it was, back then it was 6-year-olds to 9-year-olds, and then it was 10-year-olds to 14 or 13-year-olds. And so 2 different kind of like group of kids, but I basically get to tie in the biblical teachings of, every day with CrossFit. And in my opinion, it ties really well of like, working really hard when there are trials and tribulations, and when you have self-doubt, how are you going to overcome those things? Those things exist in the gym in CrossFit. And so it's really easy to kind of connect those dots to the biblical lessons that we preach, or that they do at Hope Chapel. So that's kind of what I do.
Let's move to artistry mastery. Do you have any creative skills? Like
creative skills?
Yeah, singing, piano, poetry, writing.
For me, I think in another world, I would have really enjoyed doing engineering, just because I love building things. I love Legos and things like that. And I also loved, music, and, how you can get better and better pretty recognizably, and I think that was really cool. But unfortunately, once I started CrossFit, all those things kind of went into the back burner. But I've always still had that creative itch, so I used to write, and now I kind of resolved that with creating a business. And so now I program for other athletes in CrossFit. And so programming itself is a creative process, because you need to understand what type of athlete this person is, and then you think about their goals and their weaknesses, and then you kind of create a workout for them on a daily basis. And so there is a creative aspect of that, and I think that's what I do.
Let's move to Dream Destiny, getting paid for what you're made for. And that's what you're doing, I believe, with Believe It program.
Yep.
So I was going to ask what God's dream is for your life, or are you living it?
It's very interesting. Now I have a plan that I think God has given me. Now that could change any moment, as God generally does in everyone's lives. But I want to be the best CrossFit athlete I can, not just competitively, but also known as someone who loves God and compete at the highest level, and change people's perspective about just what it's like to be competitive but also love Christ, right? There might be a little bit of a different goal, a different motivation as an athlete who loves God. So kind of like showcasing that through the platform that I've been giving and the talent I've been giving, I think is really cool. And I think I want to do that until probably 30, 35, probably dependent on, when I get married and when I have kids and things like that. But, that's the other half I don't control right now. And so after that, I want to kind of go back to the footsteps of my parents. They're professors. And so I want to go back to academics, get my PhD later on, like maybe 40, 45. And then after that, retire, and I want to build a church. I want a church that also prioritizes in sports ministry like Hope Chapel does, and kind of see that community grow. So that's kind of my what I think would really please God, and what I would be excited to do. So that's what I'm aiming for right now.
That's a great vision. Okay, nice. So you have your own business? You're the head coach?
Yes.
So can you tell viewers what Believe It programming is?
Yeah, so Believe It programming, basically, it kind of has that Christian tone to it, and that's obviously intentional. I think with individualized programming, you really need to have trust with your coach and the athlete. There needs to be a very trusting relationship, and unfortunately in Asia, individualized programming, meaning a coach individually programming for an athlete, is a very foreign concept just because of language barriers, and there just hasn't been a lot of talent in Asia to actually give out prescribed workouts for athletes. And so I started the company kind of as like a side gig when I was working for a company, to just get extra cash, and just kind of curious and wanted to see if this will work. And so I've pretty much brought the concept that already exists in the US and Australia and Europe about individualized programming and how effective it is for competitive athletes, and then kind of just translated all the lingo and all the knowledge base, and then just delivered it to primarily Korea, but also Asian athletes. And so right now we're just, our goal is to be the most famous programming company in Asia, and hopefully we can achieve that through programming for very, very high level athletes, but also just giving free and very affordable knowledge to anyone who's interested in CrossFit in Asia.
Wow. So right now, is it kind of mobile, or do you have a physical gym, or do you rent gyms, or how does that work?
Yeah, so right now I have coaches working with me, and so what I would do is I would onboard clients, basically tell them this is what's going to happen, this is our assessment process, and then I basically assign my coaches those clients, and then we scale that way. And everything is right now mobile, so we don't have a physical location, but we do physical seminars. So we will hold weekend seminars where athletes can learn more about what we believe in and the methodology behind what we do.
And what are some resources, books, or internet that helped you start your business?
I went to school for entrepreneurship. I went to a business school called Babson College, and they, focus on entrepreneurship. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. Even when I was 10, 12, I just always wanted to have my own business. And I think that really helped me understand, all right, what's the basics of marketing, of sales, of operations. And so I kind of had those knowledge base from college. And I also worked for a startup that, I got to see grow from basically nothing, no product, to a multi-million-dollar company. So seeing that really helped me understand, like, okay, this is what the risks are and this is how I have to operate. So that really helped me a lot. Also, Alex Hormozy is a business entrepreneur / mentor / motivational speaker, and he's been helping me a lot with how to scale a business without having any downsides.
What was the biggest hurdle in starting a business, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, the biggest hurdle I would say is just time. And the good thing about the programming company is that the biggest capital was, the biggest investment we had to put in was just my time. And so the more time I can put in, the faster the business could grow. But at the time I had a full-time job, and I was competing in CrossFit, and I was moving around, I'm trying to figure out my life, and I had an injury. And so there were a lot of things going on, but slowly but surely I realized that this needs to take priority over other things. Sometimes it was recovery, sometimes it was relationships, unfortunately, but understanding that the more time I put in, the more I can get out of building a business. And so that kind of helped me buckle down and just work on it.
And how can viewers follow you and learn more about you and your business?
So right now, unfortunately, Believe It programming is mostly in Korean. So unless you speak Korean, it's going to be hard to kind of understand all the posts that we post on Believe It Programming page. But as far as my personal page, Josh Strong, on Instagram, it's mostly in English, and I do want to document my journey a little bit more about what it's like to create my own business, and also just live life and like show other people like they can do this too. It's not impossible. And so I would say Josh Strong, Believe It Programming will be great if you want to learn more about CrossFit and you speak Korean.
Can we pray and support you?
I think the pray part would be for safety, because CrossFit is an intense sport, and so always, balancing the line of training hard but also not getting injured is really hard. And so doing that, and also allowing me to have courage to profess the gospel through my business and through me being an athlete and a coach. I think sometimes I get squirmish because if I'm too gung-ho about having my business be Christian, then I feel like people will leave. But I think God has blessed me with this opportunity, and I think he's done that for a reason. So to be squirmish about that, I think would be a disservice. And so allowing me to have courage to actively profess my faith, and all my coaches are Christian, not by choice but by just coincidence, but it's a great blessing. So allowing them to kind of have that compelling force to want to profess God through being a coach, I think just praying about that would be great.
Sure. And then can you leave one piece of encouragement?
I would say if you're in the United States, if you're not, I know in Asia it's a little bit like this concept of taking risk is a lot scarier, but no matter who you are, I think God put you on this earth for a reason, and it generally takes you to do something that's uncomfortable. So I would leave with take risks. Whatever you want to do, take risks, and just see where the world goes. And I think that would really open up your perspective, because I was really scared about opening my business or being an athlete, but I took the risk, and now it changed my life.
You can count for him.
4, 5. Let's go.
Yeah.
CrossFit in the rain, so epic. Let's go. Hey.
Ready, set, go! Hold on, go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go! Let's go! You're still doing it.